So here we are with the morning rock out, and here on the Crew Rock Radio, we've got András Droppa. Welcome, András. How are you today?
I'm not too bad, Darren. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you very
Oh, you
much.
are welcome, mate. It's a pleasure to see you, really.
Of
And I
course.
want to get right down to it, because until maybe a week ago, I got to admit, I've never heard of you. So,
Fair
first of
enough.
all, anybody else who's not heard of you, tell us all about yourself.
Of course. Well, I'm András Droppa. I am 22 years old. I have been a guitarist for about nearly 16 years now, and I've been writing songs for about 5, 6, 7 years, and playing professionally for about a year now with the release of my debut single back in September last year. I would say I'm a hard rock artist mainly, but I've got a lot of blues influences behind me and a lot of funk and soul as well, courtesy of both my parents and the various function bands that you play in as a musician during uni and all that stuff.
So you're mainly the guitarist, yeah, and songwriter.
Yeah, so actually, for all of my music that's been released, I am the guitarist, the bassist, the singer, the songwriter. Basically, the only thing I don't do is the drums, and that's because I have no coordination whatsoever. So it would be rather pathetic.
So excellent, bit of an all-rounder, bit of a apart from the drums, bit of a Dave Grohl there.
Well, yeah, except maybe not with the recent
Yeah,
controversy.
we
Put it
know.
that
Yeah,
way.
well, yeah,
I want to make
we'll
that one
save
clear
that
right
one.
away.
So, do you prefer the guitar? Is that your favourite instrument
Yeah,
then?
I must admit, I started on the guitar. That was the first instrument that I picked up. I mean, technically, we can argue about how people sing as kids, and it's very much a sort of how to put it, almost a natural thing that we all do. But certainly, my focus, and it has been for pretty much all of my life, has been the guitar. As I said, I've been playing for about 16 years now. I've never not had the guitar in my mind. Certainly, I remember being a kid and like my big dream was to stand on stage in front of millions of people and just play that massive power chord and make it ring out. But I don't know, I find the more I learn about it, the more I realise I have so much more to learn about it, and it's just a fantastic process whereby I am constantly just in awe of the instrument that I just try to master at some point.
So, have you got a favourite guitarist that you take inspiration from?
Yes and no. I think any guitarist you ask about their favorite guitarist will automatically give you a list and go, I can't actually choose between any of them. Certainly, I remember growing up as a young kid, it was Angus Young of AC/DC. I loved them, saw them when I was about 14, and still one of my like concert highlights of my life. Eric Clapton was a massive influence on me for quite a few years. I've seen him twice, I think, 2 or 3 times, and yeah, I mean, there's a reason people used to say Clapton is golden in the '60s. A lot of his music is very fundamental, and as a guitarist, yeah, you kind of have to admire what he did for certainly the British blues invasion during the sort of late '60s, early '70s. But then in recent times, I fully admit my own influences have massively expanded. You have people like there's a guy called Julian Lage who is one of the most amazing jazz guitarists in the world. I am in awe of everything that man does. Particularly, I think for me, over the last years, I'm really trying to get into slide guitar playing. I'm awful at it, really, really bad at it. But nonetheless, players like Ariel Posen, Derek Trucks, in particular for me, Joey Landreth is one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. And if only I had half the amount of feel and musicality that man has, I would consider myself a good musician. Put it that way.
Lovely. So, you've mentioned a couple of guitarists there. So, if you had to take the stage, who would you be with, Clapton or Young?
See, I feel musically it would definitely be Clapton. There's no way I couldn't accept that offer and stand up there with Eric Clapton to play any kind of blues. But at the same time, I feel like being on a stage with Angus Young would be such a riot that whatever would happen, it would be a great gig. Whether the amp went up in flames, like when they were recording Let There Be Rock, or not, it would still be amazing either way. Also,
It could.
I will unashamedly say I 100% know every single AC/DC song up to about 1982. So realistically, I think that as a back catalogue to just sit on and play 6 hours worth of music back to back would be very doable.
So, I was going to ask you if you wanted or had to join any band as a member, would I be right in saying that would be AC/DC then?
You know what? I probably would have said yes about 5, 10 years ago, but now it's very much if there was any band I could be a part of, I
Yeah.
think it would probably have to be the Rival Sons, purely
All right. Yeah.
because I mean Jay Buchanan's voice is it's godly. It is there. I cannot think of a better rock voice in history. I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, he is the gold standard of the male rock vocalist, and just to have a chance to create with him would be beyond insane. Like any band I could join, it would 100% be them.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a sucker for a bit of fuzz. I must admit, love a really fuzzy guitar tone. It's got to be them, realistically.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I've seen them a couple of times, and they are great. Yeah,
Oh, they are
yeah, love those. Brilliant.
absolutely beyond fantastic. I saw them actually up in Cambridge when on the day that their recent album Lightbringer was released, and they played the entire thing in full. It was the atmosphere was just electric. I was having a moment. I won't lie. It was very much I was there enthralled by the minutes, screaming along at everything. It was brilliant, beyond brilliant.
Fantastic. So you're a guitar player. How many guitars do you have? I see you got one in your hand there.
So, what I'm allowed to say that I
All
use
right. Yeah,
what?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of those, is it?
exactly.
Yeah.
There's
So
the
yeah, just tell
guitars
it.
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is official. So officially, how many guitars do you have?
officially, I think so my live rig is I've got three guitars in three tunings. The actual number sits somewhere at around 10, 12, depending on what I'm trading in at that particular point in time. I don't know whether other musicians are like this, but certainly I know it's a thing among guitar players where I seem to cycle through equipment, and it will be a case of I'll get one thing, really love it, and then something else will be sold so to facilitate that, and then you sell that thing, and then another thing comes on and you go, oh, actually I really want that because that's pretty awesome. That said, like the three guitars I use on the tour, they are like my mainstays. I've certainly one of them was custom built for me. Shout out to James Millman, who's a luthier local to me in North Devon, and he is just beyond insane, and his guitars are something else to play. It's a reason that that guitar is my number one. It's this beautiful blue kind of, I call it the droplet guitar, mainly because, Droppa in the last name kind of sounded cool.
Brilliant.
I know, what can I say? Love a good pun. But that's my number one, put it that way.
Hey, I was going to ask you what's your favourite one. So that's the one, is
There you
it?
go. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, every guitarist has played multiple guitars in their life, but sometimes you just pick up an instrument and go, yeah, this is it. And that guitar for me, I mean, I'm aware it wasn't made to my specifications, so I would kind of hope that that was the case. But James Millman, beyond delivered. It's a piece of art, to be honest.
Lovely. Excellent. So you said at the beginning you've been playing guitar and performing for since you were very
Yeah.
young, and I think you did mention a single previous. What was that?
Yes.
Because I've only heard your new stuff, your new album, which we'll talk about later.
Of course. So basically, the my professional music journey began in my last year of uni, which was last year, and that was with the release of a song called "Living for the Nights." I think it's track 9 on the album. I think something like that, which is also the debut album. But that was the first song that I ever professionally recorded and released, and it very much marks a moment in my mind, certainly, of that was the point where I was dedicated to this, and I love it. It's one of those sort of like slide songs. So I would like to say that it's not the flashiest song I do, but in a lot of ways it's one of the more interesting songs because of that. I would describe it as this very sludgy, slow, driving beat. I loved it. I still love it. I still play it all the time. Funnily enough, but that was kind of the first foray, and then more that the album was then built around that, but it was almost that was always going to sit on the album as the first song, if that makes sense. Even though
Oh,
it's
right,
not
yeah.
it's not the first song on the
No,
album, but it is like the first song, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So this new album that you got
Yes.
out, which is out now, would you say that's your favorite song on it then, or
Um,
do you have another favorite off the album?
you know what? I think my favorite song depends purely on what the moment is. So certainly live. I mean, Painted Ladies, which is the album that the song which the tour is named after,
Yeah.
which I'm sure we'll get onto at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely up there in terms of it's always our set closer. It's got such energy. It's a great atmosphere. But then there's the song "Faith" on the album, where live we get the audience singing the choir part, and there's something magical about having a room full of people sing your own song back at you, even if they don't know it. It just sounds incredible. So that's got to be up there. But equally, I think in a lot of ways, the acoustic number on the album, which we don't really play live too often. We played it at the album launch, but obviously on the road with a load of guitars, you don't want to then be lugging a load of acoustic gear on top of that. But it's the first, I would say it's the first song I ever wrote. And it's kind of, I was maybe, what, 15, 16, and it's got that kind of special connection of being the first time I actually wrote a song, and I would feel like it was an actual song as opposed to a sort of a not a kid writing music, if that makes sense. But certainly, I felt that it was a shift in my maturity as a songwriter, and that was almost it was the starting moment before the starting moment of the professional career, if that makes sense. So that I think
Yeah.
that's probably up there. And it also helps it's the only acoustic track on the album, so you know, not that it
I've,
stands out for that reason.
yeah, I've got a bit of a soft spot for that track. I've been listening since Emma sent me it last week or the week before. I've been listening to your album. Really
Oh,
got a bit of a
lovely.
soft spot for that acoustic track. What is it?
From Forgotten
Tales
Times, yeah.
Forgotten Times. I've just written it down. Probably my
Oh, wow.
favorite track is Living for the Nights, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for that acoustic track you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
on
Well,
there.
I'm
I
glad
really
to be
like
fair. It
that.
sounds like your taste in the album was quite similar to mine, then, which is always quite encouraging.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think when I was asked to interview you, because my show Morning Rock Out on the Crew Rock Radio, it's not heavy metal, it is hard rock. That's my genre, and I think they thought, yeah, Darren's gonna like that, and I do really love it.
Oh,
Great
thank you.
album. Been out since what, end of August? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was out on the 31st, and what in the 25 days since we've had, I think we're totaling about 4,000 streams on the album so far.
Brilliant.
I'm pretty proud of it. I can't lie. It's very much it's a great starting point, and I'm so lucky to be where I am so far. Put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great album. Like I said, I really like it. So it's on streaming, all the usual streaming platforms, yeah?
Everywhere you can physically get music, it is there. We have also, I mean, I haven't actually announced this anywhere yet, but we have officially now got CDs, which will be available from a website as well. So, you know, if you like a physical copy, you can always have a proper physical copy, which I personally quite like having a physical CD there to kind of put on in the car or just to have as a
Yeah,
keepsake, if nothing else.
yeah. Well, you can see I'm old school, so I'm all for the physical media.
Hell yeah.
Prefer vinyl, but CDs will do, mate. So I should be over to your
Yeah,
shop and getting one of the physical copies because that's really good. So I will put a link in the description to your website so anybody can pick up a physical copy,
yeah.
and also put a link into the streaming. So if anybody's watching this and they want to check out your album, just link in the description, folks, and it'll be there.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be out in the next couple of days to purchase, so should be cool.
Brilliant, brilliant. I shall grab myself a copy. We'll keep in touch, mate, and you let me know
Oh,
when it's
100%.
available to buy. And so, talking about the album, then you're doing a massive tour on
Hell
the
yeah.
back of that. So big, you've had to split it into two halves, haven't you? You're
Yes.
doing this autumn tour, 22 dates. You're not even halfway through yet, are you?
No.
How's it going so far?
Well, it's always a hard slog being out on the road, especially as an unknown musician in areas that you've never been to before. But I'm so lucky that I have such an amazing band behind me because every single night we deliver. I don't like to be the arrogant person who goes, "Oh my god, we were so amazing," but at the same time, I've been blown away with every performance we've done. So I couldn't be happier at the moment. Put it that way.
So I assume you've done some gigs before this album and this tour.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
based on all the time that you've been on stage, here's a question for you. What's your most memorable time you've had on stage?
Oh, so I think
So
probably
put you on the spot.
the most. I was about to say that is a hard question to
Yeah,
answer.
just put you on the
Probably the
spot there.
most Yep, literally. Most memorable moment has to be at the album release where the penultimate song of the set, it gets very dramatic, and we decided to crowd surf whilst I was doing the sort of big final guitar solo, which I must admit, in a small sort of, I think it was about a 220 cap venue where we had it packed, it was rather scary when the ceiling is about half a foot above your head, and you're there trying to hold a guitar whilst also playing, whilst also consciously aware of not falling over. But that has got to be up there as one of the greatest moments that I've had so far. It's yeah, that you can't really compare to jumping out on a crowd and them having you sail through the room and back to whilst you're playing. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. Oh, wish I'd been there now. That would have been love. That would have been great to
Yeah, well,
see.
you can not to self promote. You can see clips of it on my social media. All fun times.
All right, I will check. I will check that out on the social media. So, talking of that and videos, you've got Painted Ladies out now, sort of as a single.
Yes,
Is there a video to go with it? I've just been listening to
yes.
the album, but I've not seen if you've got a video.
No, so as it happens, we have two official music videos out. So there's one for Faith, which was the first one I ever did. We went and found a church and managed to persuade them to let us go and film a music video in there, which was quite cool actually. It was this lovely coastal view down near Plymouth. But then Painted Ladies, as you said, it's the big one. So we got
Yeah.
the same place I actually held my album launch. We went in there, got a crowd in there, and we filmed a music video, which was awesome. But the big thing is, as of 21 minutes ago, at the time of recording of this video, a live rendition of Living for the Night has just been released from our recent gig in Sheffield, which I'm counting it as a music video. Not sure
Yeah.
it is a music video, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
And big shout out to Ian Eatwell for filming that for us. It was lovely to meet him, and he did an absolutely stellar job. It's one of my favourite live clips of me so far, put it that way.
Fantastic. So after we've done this interview, mate, I should be checking that out. And again,
Awesome.
as this goes out on my YouTube channel, I'll post a link to yours so anybody can watch that as well. Because get in there. So we talked about that great moment when you did crowd surf. What's your worst experience on
Oh,
stage?
so I'll be honest with you, I apologise for any under 18s in our audience. There have been quite a few slightly hungover gigs. I think there was one particularly horrendous function gig that I once did where we had been at a different function the night before, got mildly too intoxicated. Bearing in mind that these functions are like big balls at the uni I went to, and they tend to finish at about 5 6 a.m. So we finished drinking at about 6:30, went to bed for about 3 hours, and then had another gig at 1 p.m. the next day. And the weather was so humid that you physically couldn't breathe. And I'm amazed I managed to not throw up on stage. That was my sole goal throughout that entire set. I just remember being there in this kind of hungover daze, going, "What am I doing with my life right now?" But it's memorable. It is certainly a story. It may not be a great one, but it is certainly a story.
That is definitely good. So the album, just going back to the album, sounds like really from what you're saying about some of the songs, that's been kind of like in the pipeline quite a long time, has it?
Yeah, in a way. So I've had a kind of a weird, not writing journey, if that makes sense. But I think I started properly writing when I was about 15, 16, as I said. Then, Hope, Painted Ladies, and Jack Sanctuary for Damnable Deeds. All were written when I was 17, all done on like a really, quite bad sort of demo format to start with, and then they've kind of evolved over that time. Structurally, not much, but just in terms of we went and then recorded them properly in the last year. But almost the rest of the album has all been written within the past year and maybe 2 months. I had a massive sort of songwriting burst, shall we say, where I think not that I kind of found my rhythm as a songwriter, but it was very easy for me to kind of sit down and then create music. And so the album was kind of, I decided I was gonna make one and record it and put it out probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half. But it was written as it went in a lot of ways. So certainly I'm trying to think on the album itself, probably Gamble would probably be the one which was the most recently written, and that was
All right.
finished in. I think I did a couple of tweaks to it, and that was probably finished maybe in last November, and then we went and recorded it in the January, and then it's all been released since then. I'm
Brilliant.
very lucky to have worked with some amazing both producers and recording engineers. I'd like to very quickly say a massive thank you to both Steve Tanton, Ryan Bailey. There was Neil Rogers, who helped us record two of the tracks, and then Luke Samuel, who also helped mix and produce some of them. We got very lucky as well in that we had Pete Mayer master the entire album, who
All
is
right, yeah.
the guy who has mastered lots of the Rolling Stones records.
Yeah.
His artist roster is insane. So I'm rather buoyed, I must admit, when he was like, "Yeah, I'll do your album. That's fine."
Wow, yeah.
That was a pretty good moment. I can't
I
lie.
bet, yeah. Also, it sounds like you've got a good recording team there for to do the album then. That is great.
Massively.
That's brilliant.
I was about to say, however good I sound on the album, it's mainly due to them as opposed to anything that
Nah.
I've done myself.
Well, big up to all the crew that put it together. So massive well done on the album. That's great. And we got a bit of sidetrack because we talking about the tour,
Yes,
and
of course, yeah.
you're at the Queen's Hall where we are in Nuneaton on Friday, the 10th of October, which is good because that's a Friday, so everybody can get out to Nuneaton.
Yeah,
Looking
Friday the
forward to
4th.
it.
Yeah, so it's Friday the 4th. Before we say, I think pretty sure the 10th is a Thursday, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is Friday the 4th. I've got
Yeah.
it written down 4:10, you see, and I went 10.
Ah, got you, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah.
No, don't be
Friday the
daft.
4th of the 10th. Friday the 4th
Yes,
of October.
4th of
Yeah.
the 10th, yeah. So I must admit, I'm really excited for that one. We've got two awesome support acts. We've got both White Tiger and Not Now Norman, who are all,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're
yes,
great.
they are absolutely fantastic. It's going to be one hell of a night. I'm very excited. It's also my first time in Nuneaton. I say that it's actually my first time in pretty much every place I'm playing, but nonetheless, it's I'm really excited for the set. And as you said, it is on a Friday night as well, so hopefully it will be nice and busy. Chance to go out, have a couple of drinks, have a good time.
Indeed.
And I would like to. I don't mean to brag about my own sets, but certainly I think the energy that we bring, or at least I would hope the energy that we bring, is well worth coming to pay the gig price for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Great night to play a gig on. Always love a Friday night. Friday the 4th of October at
Hell yeah.
Nuneaton at Queen's Hall. And then where are you going after that? Because like I said, it's split into two halves. You got this autumn half of the tour. When does that
Yes.
run up to?
So that runs up to right at the end of November. So we've kind of got. So I think this week and next are our last intense weeks of this run, except for we're doing a week where we do Cardiff, Swansea, and Bristol back to back, all because they're relatively local to where I am. But then we finish up on the last day of November back in my local, the Palladium Club, which is where we held the album launch, film, music video. It's kind of not that it's my local institution, but I spend probably more time there than I do at home. And then we pick it all back up again in February. So
Yeah.
this year we'll have gone from Edinburgh all the way south in one go, and then we're doing exactly the same in February, except this time rather than ending in my hometown, we're then popping over to Ireland for a couple of dates because I want to play in Dublin and Belfast. I'm going to make it as simple as that. And I'm actually really looking forward to that. It's amazing to have been able to play throughout the whole of the UK and have bookings throughout the whole of the UK. I'm
Yeah.
incredibly lucky, and it's just a chance to bring my music to as many people as physically possible.
Yeah. As I was saying, 49 dates in total, spread over two sessions. And yeah, I noticed the last two dates are in Ireland. So you're looking forward to that, yeah? Have you
Massively.
been over to Ireland at all before?
I think I've been to Dublin once or twice, just as a sort of side thing rather than a deliberate sort of going over there musically. But
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who moved over there and is currently on the music scene in Dublin and is absolutely loving it. So I've heard that the atmosphere is going to be electric. So I can only hope that it is.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. I was going to say something else about that, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm sure it'll
I'm
come back
sure
to
it
you.
will come. I'm sure it will come to me. Yeah. So after this tour is over, what's the future holding for you, mate?
So
What's your plans for next?
Well, I mean, I'm very much the tour is all consuming at the moment, as I'm sure you you can imagine.
Yeah.
But my plans going forwards. Sorry, my dog has just appeared next to me,
It's
so
okay.
he's currently begging for attention, which is quite in keeping. But my plan is hopefully to have, I say hopefully to have got a load of festival bookings. Obviously, you have to hope for the best in that regard. Any festivals watching, give us a shout. We'll probably come and play. But then beyond that, the plan is to not do it all over again, but certainly to try and make this into a full-time outfit.
Yeah.
So whether that be recording the second album, which will hopefully happen at some point, I've certainly got enough material for it, put it that way. And then getting it out on the road again, gigging, hopefully supporting some bands a lot bigger than myself, hopefully being in a position where I can start letting bands hop on my supports as a way for them to improve their own prestige. It's a fickle industry to be in, but it's one where you just have to kind
Yeah.
of hope and pray for that little bit of good luck, which gets you to that next level, which is
Yeah.
where we want to be.
It is. It is, mate. You just mentioned it's a fickle industry. What do you think about the scene at the moment? A lot of, my age say, rock, hard rock, heavy metal is dead. But we've got young guys like you coming through and younger bands. To me, I think it's still there, you know. Maybe not like the old days when I was like your age, but how do you feel? Do you think the scene's buoyant, or
You
what's
know
your
what?
thoughts?
It's a difficult one to assess at the end of the day. I think, unfortunately, the music scene in general, I'm not even just talking about the rock music scene, but the music scene on the whole is really struggling at the minute. Certainly, I'm sure that you've seen all the press about
Yeah,
grassroots venues which are really
yeah.
struggling, and equally grassroots artists who may not get quite as much coverage, we're struggling as well. It's a hard industry to break into. You are completely at the whim of an audience. If an audience love you, then it can sail, but it or equally could take years. You hear stories of people like Pulp who took sort of 10, 25 years to actually get anywhere with their music. I would like to think that there is certainly not hope for the music industry, but there's definitely hope out there. As you said, there are loads of young artists, and to be honest, there are also loads of old artists who are still releasing new music, doing new boundary defining things. Certainly, I go to artists like Jared James Nichols, who's currently getting massive. And he, maybe what, 5 years ago, was just a small guy from the States who was trying to make it as a blues guitarist, much like anybody else's. That you hear stories of people who have success, and I think although it's a hard thing to have to do to hold on to that hope that you might get there, I think at the end of the day you can only try.
Hmm.
And as I would like to think that there will always be a scene for live music, even if it takes a hit, there will always be that opportunity. And I won't deny that it's going to be hard, and that it's not the easiest thing to have to do with all the time. But I certainly have the passion for it, and I truly do believe that there is a space for that to happen, and I can only hope that it does.
So if you've got somebody who's coming through or trying to break through like yourself, what's your biggest piece of advice to them?
Um, Weirdly enough, I was actually asked this question in another interview yesterday, and I think my answer would be exactly the same in that it's do as much as early as you can. I certainly what I'm realizing in this sort of autumn and spring tour, I've learned. I know this is my debut tour, so a lot of this is to be expected, and we're ironing out creases and learning about this. But certainly, I've learned that whatever lead time I thought was enough was definitely not enough time. You always can benefit from having those extra couple of weeks, extra couple of months. If you saw everything earlier, it makes life so much easier later. And then the other thing is to just not be disheartened. Unfortunately, part of the nature of the industry is there will be knockbacks, there will be really bad gigs, there'll be gigs where you only have two people, there'll be gigs where you have a room full of people, but none of them are interested. It's it's a resilient character who can actually get through all of that, but having sort of faith in yourself, having faith in your music, and knowing that there is an audience out there, whether they appear yet or appear later, they are there. So it is just keeping your head above the water, really. I'm aware that's not particularly helpful advice. Doesn't give you that sort of key
I
sort of
think
go
that
and
is
do
no.
this.
I think that's spot on. Just keep going and have faith in yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
there'll be
pretty much.
plenty of people who love the same music as you do, like we all do. Yeah,
Precisely. And I think
but
it always comes back to it takes that one person in that one gig who sees you and thinks,
yeah,
wow, I happen to
yeah,
know the right person for you. And then it
yeah,
can just skyrocket.
yeah. That's fine. Yeah, but you're totally right, mate. So one last thing.
Go
We
for it.
talked about this before we started the interview, but I see you there with your guitar.
Oh, God.
Just for one last bit, just before the end of the interview, just play us something, Andras.
Sure, I can give me. I can try something. I might have to whack on something second.
You do that. You do that. That's okay.
I have no idea if you can actually hear the guitar or not,
I can.
but
Well, I can hear it, so it should be recording.
fab. Okay, this is actually a stereophonics number, which I love. I will preface this: I have not warmed up in the slightest. Have not played
No,
this
he
in
hasn't.
about 3 years, but we'll go with it. But I know your time well is on your mind since I'm away. Well, I've heard a cry, but yes, you've been caught cheating. will on me. I'll leave it there so it's not overstaying my welcome.
Brilliant, mate. That is fantastic. Thank you very much for that short little burst. So we'll just wrap up. But before we go, remind everybody, new album, where can people hear it?
Of course, András Droppa by András Droppa is currently available on all streaming platforms. Thankfully, there is only one of me in the world, so if you Google it, you will find me.
You are easy to find. That's right. And currently, you're on tour, as discussed.
Exactly.
Autumn and then in the spring. And as I said before, details will be in the description here. So
yeah.
just want to say, András, thanks very much for joining us here on the Crew Rock Radio. Good luck with the album, mate, and good luck with the tour, and I'll see you soon.
Darren, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.